Hey there, welcome into the College Basketball Bracket Science YouTube channel and podcast network. Today we're going to be talking a lot of just ball. We're just going to be talking about games. We're going to preview the weekend because we have a loaded slate on Saturday. It's going to be a shorter podcast because we don't have a ton to talk about that happened this past week. We had the Jimmy V Classic. We had a couple other, kind of under the radar games that we're going to dive in and discuss. But mostly the heart of the show is going to be talking about the weekend preview, talking about the opening KenPom betting lines that are out for these, these big matchups, and talk about what some of these games mean. So should be a shorter podcast, but before we dive into it, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, whether that's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Subscribe to a couple of them. That would really help us out. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Already, let's dive right into it and talk about the Jimmy V Classic. Let's start with the nightcap, which was the best game of the week so far. Number 5, UConn takes down number 18, Florida, 77-73. Let's talk about UConn first, and then we'll talk about Florida. Solo Ball was UConn's leading scorer in this game, had 19 points, 3 of 8 from 3. UConn also returned Terrace Reed in this game, which is huge. He was kind of, a little bit limited. He still looked really efficient against this great Florida front court, obviously. I think I love Solo Ball, love Alex Caravan, love Silas Demery. I love this roster. I've talked about him forever. I think Terrace Reed is their All-American, quite frankly. I think he's just the, what makes the ship sail a little bit. I think he's a potential front runner for the Big East Player of the Year, at least in my opinion. I know Solo Ball's right there, and, there's going to get a lot of hype from the St. John's guys, but yeah, I think it's Terrace Reed. I think Terrace Reed is maybe the most important player in all the Big East, but UConn picks up a huge win here. Braylon Mullins still looks good. They're just so deep. They have so many options. For Florida, Tommy Houck, 18 points, 3 of 5 from the 3. Florida drops to 5-4 on the season. Their 3 losses have come to top 5 teams: UConn, Duke, and Arizona, plus the loss against TCU, which is a little bit eyebrow raising. But outside of that, they've lost to 3 of the top 5 teams. I think UConn deserves in the conversation with those 4 undefeated teams who kind of lead in the sport right now. Michigan, Iowa State, Arizona, and Duke. I think UConn's right there. Their lone loss came at home to Arizona, but UConn didn't have Terrace Reed or Braylon Mullins in that game for Florida. So a 5-4, they might be the best 5-4 team you'll ever see. If you're wondering why they were 5-3 and ranked number 18, that's why. They're still really good. Xavier Lee had 19 points in this game for Florida. He was 5 of 14 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3. I think they got to move on, quite frankly. I know he's rebounded the ball fine. He's dishing the ball out fine. He kind of passes the eye test a little bit because he's fast. Todd Golden is such an analytically driven coach, and the stats of Xavier Lee are just awful. He's shooting 26% from the field, 20% from 3. He can't shoot. It's kind of an ugly looking shot. However, I thought maybe that was going to be the part of his game that translates. It's not really happening. I know he had a decent game in this one, and his impact was, all right there. But defensively, not fantastic. And offensively, his shooting percentages are down. Florida's not a real deep team. I don't know where they'd obviously go to Klopsjar, who would maybe incorporate in the starting lineup. But Xavier Lee's going to get minutes regardless, so they have to figure it out. They gotta get it going there. The one I'm weirded out about is AJ Brown, not AJ Brown from, the Eagles. AJ Brown, the transfer from Ohio to Florida, doesn't play. I don't know why he doesn't play. I don't know the whole story there. I'm waiting on someone to ask Todd Golden about it. I haven't seen anything. I don't know why he doesn't play. I thought he was going to have a big impact, and quite frankly, it can't be much worse than what Xavier Lee's done. So maybe they'll try something out here. I'm sure Todd Golden, like we said, analytically driven. He's seeing those percentages, and they are not good. All right, let's move on to the game that was before UConn and Florida in the Jimmy V Classic, which was Clemson and number 10 BYU, where Clemson led 43-22 at the half. It was all Clemson, and then it was all AJ Debinsa. Yes, AJ Debinsa outscored Clemson himself 22-21 in the second half. It was an outstanding performance. He ended the game with 28 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. Keba Keita had a huge dunk that actually forced a delay. It unevened the rim and the backboard. Made the game go into a delay, so that forced a bunch of UConn fans to kind of come into the game a little bit early and see the end of this BYU Clemson game, which AJ Debinsa was going off in. So it was kind of just like his moment of he has arrived. He's one of the best players, not just best freshman, one of the best players in all of college basketball. And the UConn fans were getting into it because he was just absolutely filthy in this game. And then the game ends on a Rob Wright buzzer beater three from about 28 to 30 feet. Kind of a little broken play just between two defenders. I heard it was the third option and knocked it down. It was quite an ending there. So BYU gets the job done 67-64. A game that flew under the radar was number 13 Illinois going to Columbus and taking on Ohio State. Illinois gets the job done 88-80. Let's talk about Illinois first. And Keaton Wagler, 23 points, 3 of 5 from 3. We talk a ton about the Illinois foreigners coming in, but Keaton Wagler is a true freshman. He only had 2 Division I offers, one from, or maybe Power 5 offers. I should have checked the correct stat there, but it was from Illinois and Minnesota. And they seem to have gotten an absolute steal here. The rumor is that he didn't play a bunch of the circuit games and stuff like that because he played football as well. And Illinois found him, and he's been fantastic. He started in this game, scored 23 points, making a real impact. Illinois looks like probably a 3 seed to me for this upcoming March Madness. For Ohio State, Bruce Thornton, maybe the most underrated player in the entire country. 34 points, 13 of 17 from the field, 6 of 9 from 3. Talk about efficiency. That is pretty good there. It's crazy to say Bruce Thornton's underrated playing for one of the biggest brands in all of college sports at Ohio State. That's just kind of what the Ohio State program is now. You get your best player to have a career night and you still can't win at home against, another projected tournament team. That should kind of tell you about a little bit of the coaching there, a little bit of the scheme that's going on there. Yeah, Ohio State better make March Madness for Jake Diebler's job's sake. It didn't even really ever feel like Ohio State really had a chance to win this game. I know it was kind of close throughout the entire way, but Illinois controlled it. Illinois controlled pretty much everything, and that's just kind of what you've come to expect from this Ohio State team the past couple of years under their coaching regimen. Let's talk about Ohio State's rival, number 2 Michigan, who had an interesting past couple days, did Michigan fans. Let's talk basketball first, though. Michigan wins 89-61. They led by 30 at the half over Villanova. Yes, Villanova, maybe the 3rd best team in the Big East, and Michigan was leading by 30 at the half. That is how good this Michigan team is. They had 8 players with 7+ points in this game. That'll happen when you're leading by 30 at the half. You're going to get more people in there, but they just kill you from everywhere. They kill you from every single position, specifically their front court. You can't score on their front court. They're so big, and Ade Mara blocks everything that comes down low. Morez, Johnson, Yaks, Lendeborg. Lendeborg looks like an All-American. Elliot Cadeau has actually been awesome as well. Yeah, Michigan is really good. Let's actually talk about this now. Just how good is Michigan? So these net ratings are via KenPom. Let's talk about the 2023-24 UConn team that went 37-3 and ran through March Madness. They finished the season, including the March Madness run, where they were beating everyone by 15-20. They finished the season with a net rating of plus 36.43. Once again, via KenPom. Last year's Florida team, which was in the best conference we've ever seen in college basketball, finished the season 36-4. They had a net rating of 36.46. So very similar to that UConn team that was a juggernaut. This includes the national championship run. So obviously you're going to boost the numbers, when you beat Houston in the championship game, when you beat, Texas Tech and Auburn on their way there. Michigan has played 9 games this season, and they have a net rating of plus 37.20. Now, there is preseason bias in these rankings. There is KenPom does produce preseason bias, and then the rankings go along with that as the preseason bias starts to filter out as more games come along. But at plus 37.20 through 9 games, that's not running through a national championship run where you're beating high-end competition to boost those numbers. This is through 9 games. This Michigan team is absolutely incredible. I know they haven't played the elite. I mean, they played Gonzaga and they beat them by 40. Gonzaga looks like a national championship contender. Just what else can you say about this Michigan team? They're absolutely fantastic. They look unbeatable. Like, I haven't seen a team like last year. Auburn was the best team for a while in the season. It turned Auburn, went to Duke, ended up being Florida. Auburn looked like they could be beat. This Michigan team, like, I don't know how anyone beats them. Like, they're going to get beat at some point. Maybe you get beat by Purdue at Purdue, but it's like this team is just absolutely awesome. Their net rating is through the roof. What else can you say about them? They are fantastic. All right, let's talk about Wednesday's results real quick. Mainly this one, Wisconsin goes to number 23 Nebraska and gets killed 90-60. Nebraska still undefeated. They're 9-0 on the season. I don't know what to think about this Wisconsin team. I don't really know what's wrong with them. I like the roster. It just isn't working right now. But the story here is Nebraska. They win by 30. Ranked Mass, 17 points, 10 rebounds. He missed all of last season. He is a all Big Ten caliber player. He should be in that conversation. He's absolutely fantastic. What else can you say about Nebraska? They just are awesome. They're absolutely awesome. They look like a tournament team. When you pick up, this should be a quad 1 win, I would think, by the end of the season. At worst, quad 2. Terrific start for this Nebraska team under Coach Hoiberg there. Wisconsin, just we'll see. Get blown out by BYU, now get blown out by Nebraska. I really like this team coming into the season, but something's not working there. I'm sure Greg Gard will figure it out, though. An underrated mid-major matchup, New Mexico took down VCU at VCU 81-78. Eric Olin is quietly doing a really good job in year 1 at New Mexico. Kind of keep an eye out for the Lobos this season. Purdue got avenged their loss against Iowa State badly by blowing out Minnesota 85-57. And NC State looked really good against a good Liberty team. It's kind of felt like a 5-12 matchup. I don't know if NC State can get all the way up to a 5 seed. I think they're good still. And this was just domination, 85-54 in this one. All righty, that's it. Just Tuesday, Wednesday, nothing good on Monday. Iowa State is playing Iowa on Thursday. We're recording this before that game, so you guys know the results. I don't know the result. Iowa State's favored by 13 in that one. Should be a really good game. But so we are going to talk about Friday. Friday has just one good game, honestly. It's Texas at UConn. This game will be played in stores. UConn's favored by 13 in this matchup. Coming off the win against Florida. This game's at 8 o'clock on Fox. Texas is disappointing. I didn't like Texas coming into this season, quite frankly. And I'm not out on like Sean Miller because he's playing with Rodney Terry's guys. And I know maybe Texas fans are ready to have the conversation, but that was kind of a disastrous tenure under Rodney Terry. Like Texas had so much talent. I know they made the tournament and won a game, 2 years ago, and then was in the first 4 last year. I think that was like one of the worst coaching jobs that we don't really talk about was Rodney Terry at Texas. And the roster construction last season didn't fit well. A lot of your turn, my turn kind of play. And the guys came back, maybe unfortunately for Texas. So they have enough talent to be an NCAA tournament team. But like I said, Sean Miller is not coaching with his guys. He's coaching with Rodney Terry's guys. So UConn favored by 13 in that matchup. All right, let's talk about Saturday, which is this is the slate to know. It's absolutely stacked all the way through. We'll even talk about some other games that are, highly ranked that I only had room for 11 games on this graphic, and there's more than that. But let's start with number 17, Arkansas, taking on number 16, Texas Tech. This game is going to be played in Dallas. So heavy advantage there for Texas Tech in that game. Texas Tech favored by 1. I think Texas Tech gets it done. I think Texas Tech is kind of back. They drilled LSU, and I've been saying for a while, I think LSU is a fraud. I don't think they're very good, but I think that might have just built up their confidence a little bit after getting just throttled by Purdue. It seemed this team just kind of lost confidence. I think throttling LSU, who was like a top 25 KenPom team for some reason at that point, I think this might build up their confidence. And this should be a really, two teams that you could see as like maybe 4, 5, 6 seeds in March Madness that have, Final Four capabilities. Should be a really fun game. A rematch of last year's Sweet 16 game as well, where, Arkansas led big and then Texas Tech came all the way back and, ended up reaching the Elite Eight. So that should be a really fun one. Texas Tech favored by 1 in that one. I'm going to take Texas Tech to win the game in that one. 1 o'clock on Fox, a rivalry game. We get Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma. This game is going to be played in Oklahoma City. So technically a neutral site game. Oklahoma State is favored by 1 in this one. Oklahoma State is 50th at KenPom. Oklahoma's 56th. Oklahoma State still hasn't lost. They're off to a really good start this season. They are 9-0. Don't have that elite win. They won against Texas A&M by 24. I don't think Texas A&M's too fantastic. They beat Northwestern in a semi-away game by 5. So they have some decent wins. They look the part. Oklahoma is a really good offensive team. However, they can't guard anyone, quite frankly. they should be bubble-ish, as they seem to be pretty much every year the past couple of years. The over-under in this game is 167, not 187. Projected score 84-83 via KenPom puts it at 167, so could be a very high-scoring affair here. At 2 o'clock on ESPNU, I don't have a particular lean in that game. Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, by the way. I would probably take Oklahoma because Oklahoma is coming off of that loss against Arizona State. I think they're just kind of in a little bit of a better spot here. But but we'll see. Cincinnati at Georgia. This game's at 2 o'clock on ESPNU. I believe this game, let me double check it. I believe this game is at Georgia. It's in Atlanta. It's not at Georgia, but it is, definitely a big advantage for Georgia in that one. Cincinnati coming off 2 very disappointing losses, 2 of 3, I guess. You lose at home to Eastern Michigan. No excuse for that. That's horrible. You beat Tarleton State, and then you lose the crosstown shootout to a Xavier team that completely flipped their entire roster and doesn't seem to have much money. Yeah, this is a must win for Cincinnati. I'm going to say it. I know it's early in the season, but they have to win this game. Wes Miller has to win this game. If he loses this game against Georgia and you've lost 3 of 4, I don't think Cincinnati fans are going to put up with it anymore, quite frankly. We did our hot seat meter last week. I think Wes Miller is the coach on the hot seat that if I had to pick one that isn't returning next season, it would be Wes Miller. So he has to win this game for their at-large stakes and for, maybe job security stakes. So for that reason, I would take Cincinnati +9. However, Georgia can really score the basketball and Cincinnati cannot, but Cincinnati very good on defense. So we'll see what the scheme can be there. So give me Cincinnati +9 in that one. 2 o'clock on Peacock, Marquette taking on number 6 Purdue. This game is going to be played, if I can find it, on good old KenPom. Can't find it. Where is it? Should just find the Big Ten and then go there. This game is rated so low. That's why I couldn't find it. This game is rated so incredibly low because Marquette is so bad, and it's an 18-point spread. This game is a true home game for Purdue. Marquette's 93rd at KenPom. KenPom ranks a lot of games of in terms of, excitement pretty much. It has Boston University versus Dartmouth over Marquette and Purdue. That should kind of tell you what Marquette is this season. So Purdue favored by 18 in that matchup. 2 o'clock Peacock. I'm not going to bet this game. I'm going to stay away from it because Purdue's so much better. But Marquette, yeah, we'll see. All right, 3:30 on ESPN. Memphis takes on number 11 Louisville. Louisville favored by 11 in this matchup. Memphis has a chance of being an at-large team still. I know that sounds crazy because they're 4-4 on the season. However, they have a win against San Francisco. They have a win against Baylor. Their losses haven't been to bad teams. It's been to Ole Miss, who that one's not going to age too great. UNLV, Purdue, and Wake Forest, who Purdue's obviously a tournament team. Wake Forest might be. This is the start. You get Louisville, you get Vanderbilt, you get Mississippi State. Your next 3 games. If you win 2 of the 3, you might have a chance if you can, kind of run through the American. But yeah, I wouldn't expect them to beat Louisville in this one. This matchup definitely favors Louisville, who is favored by 13. I know that seems like a lot of points. I think that's kind of a fair line, quite frankly. I think they're going to kind of shoot the lights out. We saw what they can do to Indiana, and I would rate Memphis and Indiana kind of close to each other. So I'm going to take Louisville to win the game, but 13 points is definitely a lot. 4 o'clock on Peacock, Nebraska in the longest winning streak in all of college basketball and undefeated on the season, takes on number 13 Illinois in Big Ten play. Game be played at Illinois, obviously, in Big Ten play. 4 o'clock on Peacock. Illinois is favored by 9 in that one. Unfortunately, I think this is where Nebraska's winning streak comes to an end. Now, I know it's a 9-point favorite. Nebraska's all the way up to 26th at KenPom. How about that? Computer loved by the computers as well. Illinois is 9th at KenPom. Illinois is I just think they're better. If Nebraska can go and win this one, we might really be having a conversation, but I do think Illinois gets the job done. 5:30 on ESPN, Kansas at NC State. Kansas ranked number 19 in the country. Darren Peterson should play, I would think. However, I've said that before and didn't end up playing, but he did play in the last game. Hopefully he's not limited. NC State favored by 1 in this matchup. I don't know what to think about this game because we don't have enough data with Kansas with Darren Peterson. I think NC State is better than their record shows. They're 7-3. They got beat by Texas. Oh, I just shit talked Texas, and they're Texas beat them That game was in Maui. And then Auburn, they did lose to Auburn. Then they lost that other game in Maui to Seton Hall, who's better than we thought. But so no horrible losses, but no great wins. They beat Boise State and VCU, UAB. So nothing great. This is kind of their opportunity. I kind of lean NC State. However, I'm not going to bet it just because Darren Peterson with Kansas could be an absolute juggernaut that's just kind of hiding in plain sight. So should be a fun one. True home game for NC State during V week. That's a lot of fun against a blue blood program. 7:30 on ESPN. So ESPN's got a lot of games going on. Indiana and Kentucky. My God, does Kentucky need it more than anything? This game will be played at Rupp. Kentucky's favored by 4. Kentucky's still 20th at KenPom strictly because they beat bad competition by 1 million. They don't have a top 198 win in the country. Their best win is 198th ranked Valparaiso. They haven't beaten any teams that, they haven't beaten any power conference teams. I guess that would be the way to say it. Louisville, Michigan State, North Carolina, Gonzaga, their only losses. Indiana also just lost that game to Louisville. I think Kentucky gets them. I know it might be stupid to pick Kentucky right now because they look like they don't even care out there, but I just think Kentucky's too talented for this Indiana team who's really well coached. Lamar Wilkerson, by the way, had 44 in a game against Penn State. We didn't talk about that game because Penn State's awful. But Lamar Wilkerson, absolutely awesome. I think Kentucky will have to scheme around the shooting of Indiana, and I think this might be a rebound game for Kentucky because I think Indiana's just unfortunately a little worse than we might think at this point. 8:00 on Fox. Number 2 Michigan goes to Maryland. Maryland, who I said was the sleeper team in the Big Ten this season. That was a bad take, first off. And Michigan is going there and is an 18-point favorite via KenPom on the road. That's how good this Michigan team is. I'm not betting it. I can't bet it. I wouldn't expect the line to be this big. That is so much. Like, I would take Maryland plus 18. I bet it'll be more like 15.5, I would think, because Maryland, it's Maryland plus 18 at home. That's crazy. That is how good Michigan is. So that'll be a fun one. 9:30 on ESPN. This is my favorite game of the day. Number 1 Arizona taking on number 12 Alabama. This game is played in Birmingham. Arizona is favored by 1 in this matchup. 2 teams that score the ball like crazy. However, they could not do it in more different ways. Arizona dominates you at the rim, so I think they're going to be able to, kind of control the physicality aspect of this game. In Alabama, Arizona doesn't shoot threes. They never shoot threes. They're 363rd in the country in 3-point attempt rate. Alabama is the complete opposite. They shoot 1 million threes and are so schematically good at trying to force mid-ranges on defense and trying to not shoot mid-ranges on offense. So it's going to be a lot of fun. KenPom projects it 173. I think I would probably take the over. I lean Arizona in this game. I think Arizona is just going to dominate so hard at the rim that Alabama's not going to be able to stop them. Alabama doesn't have a true real post presence. At least they got some pieces, but I don't think it's any match for this Arizona team. However, you never know if Alabama just gets incredibly hot. LeBaron Philon drops 30. Aiden Holloway also drops 30. You never know, but I trust Arizona's perimeter defense with their physicality down low. I lean Arizona in this game. At 11:30 on ESPN, number 25 UCLA taking on number 8 Gonzaga. This game will take place in Seattle. Gonzaga favored by 10. In this matchup, Gonzaga looks awesome. UCLA hasn't looked great. Could this be a Donovan Dent breakout game? We will see. UCLA is in need of some wins for seed line purposes. Gonzaga is going to be a top 3 seed. I would be shocked if they weren't a top 3 seed come March Madness. So UCLA gets Gonzaga semi-away at Gonzaga or in Seattle. Then they get Arizona State, and then, it's Cal Poly and UC Riverside. And then you start Big Ten play. They could be going into, Big Ten play with, well, I guess they have already played 2 Big Ten games because the Big Ten starts early, but they would have 0 non-conference good wins if you lose to Gonzaga, and Arizona State's 70th at KenPom, so we'll see how much that win could get them. But they wouldn't have any terrific non-conference wins. Their best win would be 240th ranked Eastern Washington in the non-con. Now that doesn't include Big Ten play, and they are 2-0 in Big Ten play with a win against Washington and Oregon, but non-conference, wins do also mean a thing come March Madness. So 10 points is a lot. I would take UCLA plus 10. I don't know if it's going to be that big since it's not a true home environment for Gonzaga in that one. Alrighty, and then just one game we're going to mention on Sunday. St. Mary's and Boise State. I don't even think the game is on TV. Unfortunately, I don't know why. 6 o'clock. St. Mary's, this game is going to be played at in Idaho, but it's not a home game for Boise State. It's a technically a semi-away game for St. Mary's. St. Mary's is favored by 1 in this matchup. Boise State, I know they lost that early game to Hawaii Pacific, the Division II team. Since then, they've been solid. They still have a chance as an at-large. St. Mary's is definitely an at-large at this point in the season. So two teams that, aren't going to have a ton of opportunities in their conference play, looking to stack up one more big non-conference win. St. Mary's and Boise State, 6 o'clock on Sunday. All righty, that is it. Shorter podcast today, not a ton to talk about. That's the Saturday slate. All right, you know what? I'm going to go back to Saturday slate real quick. As I mentioned, we were just going to talk about some other games for you to kind of keep an eye on. You got SMU versus LSU. That could be a fun one. You get Santa Clara and Arizona State, two teams that have sneaky, aspirations of being an at-large team. Providence at Butler in the, into Big East play. We get Kansas State and Creighton at Creighton, who's been two disappointing teams, two teams who need to win for at-large sake. Mid-major games, George Washington taking on Florida. That's a fun one. That's actually a neutral site game. You get Michigan State at Penn State. I think Michigan State should beat up on them. Another fun mid-major game is Akron versus Murray State, two teams that can really score the ball. So it is loaded all the way through. You got games all through the day. It's going to be, it's going to be a lot of fun the entire day. So that'll conclude it. We'd mentioned some of the other games to, kind of keep an eye on. That'll do it for the show today. Just talking about some of the, big games that we have this weekend. This is, I think, the best weekend we've had so far in college basketball all the way through. But the 20th, the next weekend might be even better. So we're going to really start loading up on these Saturdays once, conference play starts up. This is going to be a hot take of mine. I like conference play better than non-conference play. There's just so many good games. Maybe that's just like the SEC last year, where it was like, it could be Wednesday night and you look up and there's two top 25 teams in consideration, or playing on ESPN2 or something, or the SEC network. Maybe that's just last year bias, but I just love seeing, high level competition against each other every night. We'll see it in the Big 10, see it in the SEC, we'll see it in the Big 12. Even the ACC is a lot better this season. All right, before heading out of here, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, turn on the post notifications so you stay up to date on the college basketball season and beyond. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's. We will talk to you again probably on Monday. Monday's super slow, so we'll probably come back either Sunday night or Monday to talk about the results, and then we always do rankings and stuff on Mondays. So talk about all of that following this epic weekend. Everyone be safe. Take care.